guys, what's going on? It's me, Jonathan Perez, founder of SureFireWebServices and creator of Getting to 30K. Today I'm going to try something completely different and new that I've never done before. I'm noticing a lot of times people are starting to actually put videos on their websites, and I think it's a wonderful idea to do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually start doing a lot more videos because I want you guys to get to know me. And that's really the only reason. I just kind of want to get some more exposure out there. So expect more of these things happening. For those that don't know, my name is Jonathan Perez. SureFireWebServices is my website, and so is Getting to 30K.com. Those are pretty much my two primary brands. And in this, I'll call this episode 1. Maybe we'll call it Surefire. I don't even know what to call it. I'll think of that later. But right now, what I want to do is I just want to talk about a small topic. Not going to take up too much of your time. Maybe in the future they'll be longer and longer. But this is just going to be me trying this out and pretty much seeing how this goes. As you can see right now, I'm in my car. That's because I do work full-time, and it's very hard to find time to do things. You know, I work a full-time job. I come home. I have my son, as you can see, the baby seat back there. My wife, I spend time with them, and then I kind of try to work most of the time at nighttime. So, but as far as recording, I don't really have a private area in my house yet. So when my son is sleeping and my wife's sleeping, I can't exactly jump on the computer and start saying, "Hey, everybody, look at me." So this is my attempt. In this episode, I want to talk about identity crisis, and I'm not talking, you know, who am I or where do I come from. I'm really kind of trying to relate this into a business matter. So for me, for instance, SureFireWebServices.com right now is going through a kind of identity crisis where I started it with one goal in mind, but throughout the months, January, February, March, April, now we're in July, it kind of shifted, and it's shifting into something that I don't know yet. But what I do know is I keep testing it and measuring it just to see kind of where this business model is going and what areas I should focus more on. So I call that the business identity crisis, my token name. You know, I think a lot of people kind of go through that where they start something, and let's say everybody just kind of starts off with, oh, I'm a web designer, or I'm a web design business. And then they get kind of stuck on where they want to go or how to grow from that point, what to change. A lot of times certain people turn into theme shops. Other times they turn into just designers or just developers. But I think it's a kind of an evolving process just to kind of see of what you enjoy most and where you see yourself being in the next either couple months or year, whatever your long-term goal is. So right now, Surefire, just to explain to you, I started it as a freelance service. Then I kind of stopped. Then I tried to get into themes for a little while. Then I started doing a little bit of maintenance tweaks. And then I started pushing more Genesis WordPress and types and views kind of work. So with all of that, I ended up creating a couple of courses and, you know, putting some services on my website that they've been doing pretty good. Right now, I'm in a transition of launching a new website called Getting to 30K. And I'm trying to keep Surefire Web Services more of a business aspect, not just kind of like this is a Jonathan Perez freelancer type situation, but actually turning it into a more evolved business where people feel more comfortable hiring Surefire Web Services as opposed to just hiring Jonathan Perez. I mean, even though you can hire me, but I don't want that to be the main focal point of Surefire Web Services. Getting to 30K, on the other hand, will be a more direct line for Jonathan Perez. I'm talking about myself in the third person. But that's going to be more of a direct line kind of community-based website, whereas Surefire Web Services is going to be more of a company brand that you can hire for the work that you need done on your Genesis WordPress sites and on your types and view sites. And now this wasn't like an overnight thinking. This has been, I would say about, since January, 7 months in the making of just trying to figure out what to do and where to go with the business as I see it starting to grow. So this identity crisis right now is me really just trying to figure out what the best options are for my company, SureFire Web Services, and how I can best, put that in front of you, basically, for all the users and all the people that read my blog and things like that. I think a lot of people, go through this. So I hope this is something that you can relate to. For those that care, SureFire Web Services will be becoming more of a branded company, and all of the courses, for those of you that have already signed up to the course, are going to be moved to getting to 30K. And one thing I kind of want to touch on is this kind of affects everything as a whole, and certain things you may not realize that it affects it or not. But as far as blogging, now I'm going to have to try to figure out what type of topics I should blog for SureFire Web Services and what type of topics would go on to getting to 30K. Because I think it's important not to mix the messages too much, because then it might as well be one thing, and I don't want it to be one thing. I want it to be two separate pieces, production, training, things like that. So, there's a lot of decisions that come into play. I won't get too in-depth into them now, because I'm just, this is my first, I guess, video podcast, if you want to call it that. So, I just want to touch on that subject. And if you have any comments, or if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you can relate to with the business identity crisis, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, because I know I went through it. There's been a couple other people that I know have been through it, where they're trying to kind of figure out what their business is. So if you have ever experienced something like that, I'd like to hear from you. Let me know what you think, what you have decided, maybe some steps that you took to find those decisions. I think that'd be pretty interesting. And if you have any questions for me for the next video podcast, because I do plan on doing these maybe weekly or bi-weekly, or depending on the reactions that I get to it. But if you do have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, or I do have a contact button somewhere on the navigation bar. Feel free to drop me a line, ask me a question, and I'll do a video just like this, not too long, and I'll try to answer your questions or see if I can relate to something like that. Okay? Thanks a lot. This is Jonathan signing off. SureFire Web Services, getting to 30K. Peace.